My Lords, I can only begin this contribution, as I did during the second reading, by paying tribute to the power and importance of the noble lady Baroness Cumberledge's report, as so many other noble lords have. And to note that the length of the list of lords speaking to this amendment is a reflection of the fact that this is perhaps the most important, or certainly the most easily and directly deliverable through legislation element of the noble lady's recommendations. So when I was thinking about how I could contribute to the long list of speakers in a positive way, I thought what I would do is go back to the noble lady's report and to the patients who spoke to her. And were I delivering this as a public speech, I would at this point deliver a trigger warning and say what I'm about to say is very disturbing. And I think that is something that needs to be said now. So I'm going to quote three of the patients that the noble lady quotes. The first is identified as a mesh-affected patient. Quote, "I have had a constant battle to get the help and treatment I needed with my mesh complications. Gaslighting and fobbing off culture appears to be rife." End quote. The second quote is from a former GP and mesh-affected patient. Begin quote. "I do believe there is a huge unconscious negative bias among you all towards middle-aged females in chronic pain." End quote. And finally, the third quote is from Teresa Hughes from Meshes United. Start quote. "They would tell you there is nothing wrong with you and that you are just a hysterical woman." End quote. I think it is worth very briefly reflecting on the history of medicine, the history of the medical profession. The idea of a wandering womb, of particular strange afflictions supposedly affecting women, and particularly women of reproductive age, actually goes back to the ancient Greeks. We have something here that's been embedded for literally millennia. If we look to more recent history, it was actually the Book of Hysteria by Edward Jordan in 1603 that really pinned down in English something that became medical doctrine for centuries. So this is something, a treatment of female patients, that has a very long and very embedded history. We also, if we look at the culture of medicine, I think if we look back to the 1960s and 1970s, up until that point in time, the culture of medicine was very much one of paternalism. The doctor, who was most often a male, knew best. The patient was told what they should do and how they should be treated, and the doctor knew what was best for them, and the patient had very little say, very little control. And I think we can credit the women's movement as being an important part of the force of driving for change in the medical profession. And we have seen change. But medical habitus, medical practices, medical culture is not something that changes very quickly. It's very clear from those quotes that I just read out that there's still a long way to go. And there is a strong gender aspect in this, but there are also many male patients, child patients who are affected by this as well. Now, what a patient safety commissioner could do would be someone to go to, someone who knows the system, someone who has sufficient technical support to understand the issues and to be able to see where systematic breakdowns are happening and act on them. As the noble lady Baroness Cumberledge referred to, the Children's Commissioner is a wonderful example. Indeed, I was referring to the Children's Commissioner by chance very approvingly in the very same chamber of your Lordship's house yesterday. We've already seen action on this recommendation, the Patient Safety Commissioner, coming in Scotland. And I'm proud that the England and Wales sister party, the Scottish Greens, were very strong in supporting that. And I think with this amendment, your Lordship's House has a real chance, as we've been doing with so many bills lately, to really insert in an important and key improvement. I hope that we might see, if not today, sometime very soon, the government seeing the sense of following the Scottish lead, seeing the sense of following the recommendations of the noble lady Baroness Cumberledge's report. But if that's not the case, I can certainly offer the Green Group's very strong support for pushing this further as far as it needs to be pushed to deliver this vital figure. Thank you, my lords.